Thanks for joining Coach Thomas today. Amos, do you want to get it started?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, how are you doing today, Coach?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Well, first thing I wanted to ask you is just, I know obviously the whole coaching staff has been sort of working remotely. What are some of the challenges you've been finding, considering the position group you work with?
Well, you got everybody on both sides of the country, first of all. So you got to make sure the time works. And it's a little, on the guys on the West Coast, if we're going at 9 o'clock, hey, we're going at 7. And honestly, they've been great about it. Whether it's East Coast, West Coast, you're obviously guys have their workouts scheduled, things like that. And everybody's been pretty much working hand in hand and getting that stuff. And then, I've got stuff going on at the house here. So one day, the internet got cut out. So you got to figure out where to go to do that. But other than that, I'd say given the fact that we really don't have a baseline for what we're doing here, it's ran pretty smoothly.
And, you talked about the guys sort of being scattered all over the place. Your group is still a pretty veteran group. Obviously Alvin's been here. Latavius is coming off a year here, but he's been around the league a while. And then even Ty Montgomery is a guy that's been around the league a while. Does that help knowing that you have guys that are out there, doing the work on their own and you don't have to kind of watch them as hard?
Well, absolutely. I mean, really up until when our OTA phase 2 is going to start, they're going to be on their own anyway. So we're really away from each other about a month, maybe a little bit more. So, they're pros. This is their job. And so, especially with the two guys that have the most experience in the room with our organization, you stay in touch with them and they're doing the right things. And, as far as working out, they know how to take care of their diets and follow the plan. Now you throw in, like Dwayne, this is his second off season going with us. Taekwondo Mazel, it's his first off season going with us. Burton, it's his second, but he wasn't with us the whole year. So, you got those vets at the top, and then, throw in Ty Montgomery, who's been around a couple teams and teaching him our language. Those are the things that need to be caught up here as soon as we can all get together here in July, hopefully. But they've all been on point. I got text from a couple of them today, can we go at this time just so we can review some things. And like I said, I've got a really solid, high character group that, love working with.
Talk about some of those veteran guys like Kamara and Murray. I'm interested, what have your conversations been like with them, and what are some of your expectations for them this coming year?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. Speaking of some of those veteran guys like Murray and Kamara, I'm interested to hear what some of those conversations have been like with them, and also some of your expectations for them next year.
Well, with those two guys, it's not so much teaching the playbook like I'm doing with some of the other guys. It's more so of, all right, here's where we got to tweak, twerk, do whatever we have to do to keep polishing our game up, that maybe we lose some of those reps during the OTAs. And, it's that really starts back at the beginning of the offseason when we review the film and look at the things that we did well and the things that we need to correct and get a little better so we can be a better offense.
Coach, Ty Montgomery has displayed a versatile skill set throughout his career. How do you see him fitting into the offense?
Well, I'm a fan of Ty Montgomery. Yes, he's on our team, but I was before he got here, just because he can do everything that's required of him in our playbook. Obviously, he has a route running skill set that he had back in college at Stanford, and I coached against him when I was at Washington. He's at Stanford, so I was very familiar with him as he came in the league. But he's got the ability to run routes. When you look back at it, he's only been a running back for 5 seasons, so that's where I see the piece of putty that we can kind of hopefully mold into what we want him to be within our offense. I love the versatility. Out of the backfield, we can line him up and empty. We can put him back there as a single back 7 yards deep. So I don't think he's going to be, put in a single position, and that's what he does. I think he's along the lines of a cadet, maybe a little better running body just because he's 220 pounds. Pierre Thomas, obviously Pierre didn't have all the route skills coming out of college, but, solid running back. So, he's the meetings I've had with him, he is smart, obviously Stanford educated, but he's smart, he's very coachable, like what he's bringing to the table as far as what we got with this signing.
If Erik McCoy is able to transition to guard, what would getting his athleticism at that position do for the running game and in the screen game?
Well, I love Erik McCoy. I mean, I think the guy missed a couple snaps during the whole course of the season, so I know he's dependable, he's tough, and if that's the case and he does get up playing the guard, I think you're going to get a physical mauler at that spot that's got a year under his belt. He's not going to be thrown to the fire as far as being the first time out there playing a new position. I think he's going to be okay. But as far as the screen game, he's got athleticism where he can get out in space and make some adjustments, which is exciting. Obviously the screen game though, it's a all-encompassing package. It's not just one person that's going to make this thing go. And we got to do a great job as far as our timing, understand the player in front of us as far as getting out in space and understand his techniques as well.
Alvin, sometimes will post a video of his workouts, and it looks like they're kind of out of the box. I was curious in your thoughts, some of the stuff he does in the off season to kind of prepare himself.
I think what he does as far as some of the training, it's things that push him that maybe a normal player couldn't do or couldn't do to that level. I always liken him to, he's kind of a cat where he's always landing on his feet. Well, he's always trying to find ways to kind of tweak and find a way to be cutting edge, yet it's something that's going to make him in our offense better. But I enjoy getting the videos and all that stuff every once in a while of the things that he's doing to stay on that level. Now obviously there's always the coach in you that's like, just be smart now about what you're doing. But he's a guy that knows the limits, where to push them, and then when to back it off as well.
He's alluded a few times about how much pain he was in last year playing, just being able to watch that and seeing what he went through. I mean, does anybody even have any idea of kind of what he went through to play every week?
No. I mean, he's the one that knows exactly what he went through, but I know this, he went 100%, the entire season. And there's a point to where, whether it was a back, a knee, an ankle, whatever it was, he battled through it doing the best that he could. And I know at times, people took it as something else, but, the guy's an ultimate competitor. He wants to be out there to help the team and help us win. And, bottom line, his 100% might be not his 100%, but his 75% might be someone else's 100%. And that's why he was out there still trying to go and play and put his best foot forward.
Joel, with somebody who's had as much success as Alvin's had in his first 3 years, going into year 4, like how do you challenge him to continue to be better? Like what's kind of the message for him?
Well, I think, the message and there's not a lot of challenging it. Obviously, we're going to keep on pushing, but I think he wants to put forward a better season than he put forward last year, plain and simple. That's the true signs of a competitor. Are they happy with what the last season was, or they want to keep on getting better? And I know in his heart and his mind that, what he put out there wasn't 100% him all the time as far as his best football. And we always have video as coaches we can go back and teach off of and review. And the player, they're veteran players, they're reflective, and they look at how they play. And they know when it's been great, when it hasn't been up to their level as far as the output. So, that's the first thing. We're going to continue to review the film, where can we get better. And then obviously when we get back out there, whether it's a new scheme, whether it's polishing up just a traditional outside zone scheme on what we can do better as far as the runner, eyes, decision-making, landmarks, all those little things, that will come about when we get back into camp.
And probably before the injuries started kind of piling up for him. Those first 4 games, I think he was breaking a bunch of tackles and stuff like that. Was that kind of emblematic of where he actually was last year before?
I think the Seattle game. Obviously, Teddy in his first start, we were in a very hostile environment, and that was vintage Alvin Kamara football right there. That game. I mean, I can go put on whether it's the pass protection, whether it's a run, whether it's a reception, whether it's a make you miss out in space, whether it's a make you miss in a tight box, running through defensive. I mean, he did it all, making linebackers miss. That was a complete game, as far as his performance in that game. And I'm willing to bet if you talk to him about that game, he would still find something that he might have been able to do a little bit better to have even more output. So I think up to that point, when healthy and rolling, that's what we expected. That's what he expected for the entire duration of the season. Obviously, things that popped up didn't allow that to happen.
When you're in that first kind of year of the running back rotation that you had last year with Alvin and Latavius, does it take a while to kind of understand their rhythms and how they work well together and that sort of thing? Can you kind of actually use that to benefit this year?
I think we will be able to kind of go back to last season and the pace to where it took to get those two going on the same level. Obviously with the injury where Alvin missed a couple of games, our hand was pushed to play Latavius a lot, and he played outstanding. I mean, he played outstanding all season long. What everybody was so accustomed to, the style that Mark had, and then you bring in this runner that almost looks like a tight end at times, as far as his height and his size. That took some, getting used to. But I think the so-called yin and yang with these two now is something that we've got a good grasp on. And obviously Latavius, he earned every bit of his playing time that he got, and he did a solid job stepping in when his number was called. And then obviously working hand in hand with Alvin when they were both healthy.
Coach, I think we can assume that you missed the personal interaction with players and coaches and being at the office. But when was the last time you were able to spend this much quality time at home? And have you developed like a daily routine?
I've first of all, I've never been at home this long. I mean, it's we all look at the situations going on, and you try to find the bright lights that you can draw on. And I got an 8-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it's been daily. I've been able to cook dinner every night. I've been able to tuck them to bed every night. I'm involved with baseball's going again now, so I'm way more involved with that. Just the little things that you might miss. And the off season's our off season's good where I'm around a lot, but it's been time like no other being around these guys. And to go back on what you said, I got into coaching because of the social interaction and the hands-on work and the ability to coach and develop and have whether it's the daily talks, and it may not be about football at times, but that's a part that we're all as coaches. That's built into us, and we're chomping at the bit that the time comes that we can all be together and focus on the 2020 Saints.
To piggyback off of that, we've talked with some assistant coaches, and they've said one of the positive things to come from these virtual meetings has been able to be more detailed and meticulous. Is that something you've experienced with some of the running backs this offseason?
Well, you don't have we don't have the ability to physically demonstrate certain things. So you have to be on point with your words. You may say something, and in all these calls, I might be talking with a video runner where they don't see my face, where they see the actual play, and I'm sitting there describing something with my hands or my feet or whatever. So I have to come back and retrace and show them again. And really that comes into play with the newer players that are involved, with the Tony Jones and Ty Montgomery, that maybe what they hear is a certain zone step or footwork, they may know it as something else from their previous place, whether it's with the Jets, the Ravens, or with Tony with Notre Dame. So you have to be more detailed and more on point. Not that we weren't at the office, but you want to make sure that when we come back in there, we're all on the same page.
What are some of the
early impressions on Jones Jr.?
On Tony?
Yeah, Tony.
I think he's – yeah. I reflect back to the last conversation we had. We're going over protections, and he's pretty smart. And that's smart football players find a way to get on the field early. Now with that being said, you got to compete and show it with the pads on. I like his size right now. I think the last time we talked, he's in that 223 range, so he's got a little bit of a thump to him. I think there's going to be things that when we get going here in camp, I've got to develop his hands, I think, a little bit. Nothing that's detrimental. And then obviously the pass protection, what was asked of him previously and what probably asked of him here in camp will be a little bit more. But, I like the attitude. I like what he brings to the table as far as the intelligence. And, he's played at a high level as far as football goes. So I don't think he's going to have this all of a sudden I'm in the bright lights of the NFL. I mean, who knows if we're even going to have fans in the stands for his first game. But, I'm looking forward to getting him out there in the field and seeing what he brings to the table as far as helping our group out.
Hey, Joel, in your own words, what's kind of the importance of that fullback position in the offense? And was it important for you all to bring back guys who have experience in the offense after Zach retired?
Yeah, I think, first of all, we use it. Obviously, we find, different ways to use that position come game day. 'Cause we can carry an extra tight end, we can carry a fullback. There's times we haven't, we haven't dressed Zach before or whatnot, or Kuhn in the past. But when they're on the field, we're always looking for a guy that if we're lead blocking, we look for a guy that's going to declare a hole or widen a hole. And that's where Zach excelled. He did a great job at he'd get to a strike point and he'd strike. He'd have a stinger. He'd roll his hips and he would cover guys up and remove them. Once Zach retired and we knew Mike was out there, he was the target that he was having a good OTA, good training camp until he got hurt, and then boom, the competition was gone because we were really optimistic about what he could do to push Zach a season ago. And then obviously he had the injury and it forced him to, sit out most of the preseason. And, obviously we only carry one at that time. So, I felt it was important to get a guy in here that's familiar with our offense and coach and Terry did a good job of getting him in. And, at the same time, he played well for Washington when he did play. He did a solid job and felt that the player that was on film from Washington was the one that we saw during training camp. And then at the same time, Ricky, he stepped in there for a couple games and I mean, the guy came in and he played a significant amount of playing time, having really no practice. He was on scout team the week that he came up and Zach's injury sidelined him for the season. So, Ricky, he's still a young player that's developing at the same time. So it'll be a fun battle when training camp gets rolling.
Coach, do you think there are any elements to this virtual offseason that you think might carry forth in future years that might make your job a little easier or,
You have to refer to Sean on that one. But I mean, obviously, for us with the virtual offseason, it gives us a little bit more time to kind of prepare as far as the install tapes and also opponents. I mean, we know our schedule now. We got Tampa. We got their stuff on film. We got the Vegas, the Raiders there as well. So it allows you a little more time to where those two hours that you'd be practicing during OTAs, you really have to work at next season opponents or do research on other teams that you're looking at schemes that they may be doing offensively as well.
Hey, Joel, just one more on Alvin. I don't know if we actually touched on this, but is he motivated by the way last season went for him, just with the injuries to kind of show that he's a better player than he was in the field last year?
Absolutely. I mean, that's all the players. I mean, you either get better or you get worse. That's always been something I've known as a player and a coach, and something I preach. And you don't always stay the same. And I know deep down that he's gonna put his best football out in front of him. And that was the goal a season ago, 2 seasons before that, and when he walked in here as a rookie, that he was going to show he's better than what we saw when he played his last year at Tennessee. So it's when you start kind of sitting back on your past stuff that any player, any coach, anybody in the business world, then you're getting comfortable, and that's when stuff goes a different direction.
What have you thought of Alvin's new interest in NASCAR?
I think it's awesome. In conversations in the past, I've gone to Indy cars when I coached at Purdue, and it's a whole different world as far as what we do football wise. And I haven't talked to Alvin yet since he's gone in the race, but I imagine obviously he had a little more VIP treatment as far as the track and the ability to get behind the scenes and see the tactics and everything that goes into a race, instead of just watching on TV and you see cars going around a circle, because it's the furthest thing from what you really see on TV. So I'm excited to talk to him and see what his take is on it. But I'm sure he had a blast.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions for Joel?
Just one quick follow-up on Ty Montgomery in case I missed this earlier. But when you look at kind of how he's been used in these last couple stops, do you see a running back? I know he came in as a receiver. Or do you see somebody who can be sort of positionless and move around on the offense?
That's exactly. I see a Swiss Army knife, so to speak. I mean, it's how our team's going to view him when we start putting personnel out there. How are they going to view him when we put Alvin and AK out there? They're going to treat it as a nickel package, and they're going to go dime with it, treating them as wide receivers. That's something we got to see is how he's going to be viewed as well. But I see a complete, in all aspects as far as run, pass, catch, the ability to block. And the worst thing we could do right here is today is sit there and pigeonhole and say, hey, you're going to be this position and that's it. Something that Sean talks about all the time is our job as coaches is to find out what they can do well, and that's what maybe we haven't seen something on film because he hasn't been put in a situation with these other teams that hopefully we can maybe dig out a little bit more and find out just hopefully that he hasn't touched the ceiling, that he's got more room to grow, which we feel he does.
Having used Taysom in the way you guys have the last couple of years, does that kind of force you to look at every player that way, or is this something that kind of always happens? I
mean, Taysom, I think, is like the aha moment. Like, here we go. As far as the ability to do a lot, almost everything. Everybody jokes, hey, we should put him at guard at times. Let's not go down that road. But with Ty, and I think any player, I think we're always trying to find a way to really get the best out of that person. Whether it's Ty lining up in the slot, Ty lining up in the gun, Ty lining up in the backfield, 7 yards deep. Things we do with Alvin. I can see Ty coming in and hopefully challenging Alvin at some of those spots as well. Making competition there as far as some of the route running stuff.